right. Welcome back, everyone, to our latest episode of The Nest. That is the New England Sports Talk, and we all wish you a very happy new year. And before we begin today's episode, we'd like to give our thoughts and prayers to the families and friends of former NFL coaches John Madden and Dan Reeves, as both were influential coaches in the game and inspired many. It is hard to believe that we are already in the third year of the 2020s. This decade has gone by quite quickly so far. And nevertheless, for the New England Patriots, 2021 definitely was a positive year, as the team has definitely become a playoff contender again, despite losing its last two games, including a 33-21 loss to the Buffalo Bills at Gillette Stadium back on December 26th. And for today's episode, we will recap that loss and also look towards the Jacksonville Jaguars, who the team will face tomorrow at Gillette Stadium, and kickoff is scheduled for 1 p.m. EST. And joining me for today's episode are Anirban Chakraborty, Ravi Bajpai, and Shuvom Sadukan. Guys, Happy New Year, and how are you all doing?
Doing well. Happy to be here, and Happy New Year to all of our viewers.
Yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. Excited to be here.
Yep, same. Happy New Year, everyone. Hoping 2022 is a good year ahead of us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about this Patriots-Bills game. So kind of a disappointing game, right? Obviously, you beat the Bills earlier on Monday Night Football, and then the Bills come into Gillette Stadium and win by 12. And it was definitely a frustrating game, right? We talk about Mac Jones, 14 of 32, 145 passing yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And the second interception of the game came at the end. So I'm not going to be as worried about that. He also had 6 carries for 33 yards. And I guess Damian Harris, once again, a very good game, 18 carries for 103 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the Bills really just cannot stop Damian Harris, because in his last 2 games, both of them were against Buffalo, and he has 4 touchdowns in those 2 games. So Damian Harris was a positive for sure. And the passing game, kind of disappointing. Jacoby Myers, 6 catches, 59 yards. And we had talked about Hunter Henry. He had 1 catch for 9 yards. N'Keal Harry, not in the highlights for the right reason, 2 catches for 15 yards. And he also had a bad drop in the second quarter. Kendrick Bourne, 2 catches for 23 yards. So essentially all of those kind of key receivers for the Patriots, none of them really made a major impact. So let's talk about that first. What went wrong for the Patriots? What do you think was kind of the major issue? And is this a concern going forward, because the playoffs are coming up and the Patriots are no longer in the driver's seat? They lost first place against the Bills, so now they're in second place. So I don't know. Should we be concerned at all, or what? Anyone, just begin.
I think we definitely should be concerned. In the last 2 games, we've had our game against the Colts, our run defense got completely lit up, and then this game, our pass defense, which is still ranked one of the best in the league, got completely destroyed by the Bills. This is supposed to be one of our strengths, but you just saw that Josh Allen was really the difference maker in this game. He consistently converted 3rd and 4th downs. They never had to punt at all, because they just were able to have such long drives and end with good field position and have the luxury to go for it on 4th down. And yeah, I think where we lost this game, definitely Mac Jones played a role in the loss, but the Josh Allen and the Bills were just able to completely run over our pass defense, and that was the difference maker at the end of it.
Yeah, the pass defense was horrible this game. I'm not going to I don't want to sugarcoat this anymore. The pass defense was really bad. No punts allowed at all this game. How does that happen in a game? This is the first time ever in a Belichick era that the opposing team never punted once. And this is, again, they faced great quarterbacks before, right? They faced Peyton Manning. They faced Patrick Mahomes. How do you allow your defense to never allow one punt? And granted, they did get that 4th down stop against Buffalo, but I don't know. It's just a very poorly executed game plan, I thought, overall. The 4th and 7, do you remember that 4th and 7 where the defensive player, I think Christian Barmore, he jumped offside and made it 4th and 2, and that made it an easier conversion? Once again, they had a 4th down, 4th down offsides penalty that made it easier, basically helped the opposing team. This is just undisciplined football again. And then those, I know we can blame the refs a little bit, that picking up that penalty marker on the hit, the late hit on Mac Jones. We can blame the refs, but I don't think the offense really was prepared for this game, and neither was the defense. So, at the end of the day, 2 straight losses now. And I would say it's a little bit worrisome at this point, but I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't think the sky is falling per se, but yeah, Ravi, I agree at this point. Like, we got to be a little concerned, right? Because
I would also note that important goal line stop that the Patriots had was also helped out by one of the receivers completely just dropping the ball on third down. So we kind of got bailed out in that situation too. So I think overall, yeah, it was a very sloppy game for our pass
and
defense.
not just sloppy. I'm just also going to point this out. Josh Allen, so 30 of 47, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And he was actually the Bills' leading rusher with 12 carries for 64 yards. But Isaiah McKenzie, 11 catches for 125 yards and a touchdown. Raise your hand if you thought Isaiah McKenzie would be the Bills' best receiver in this game. I don't think any of us even expected him to really make much of an impact. But he was the Bills' leading receiver over Stephon Diggs, who had a great game too, by the way, over J.C. Jackson. So all that whole J.C. Jackson should be paid number one cornerback. Once again, J.C. Jackson kind of, for the first time, didn't really step up to that billing. And he dropped that critical pass on that final drive, which would have given the Patriots the ball back when it was 26-21. Just a very, like, I don't know, uncharacteristic, sloppy game. And I don't know, I can't really say the Patriots, I mean, they didn't deserve to win. Again, second straight game, the defense. And also, just one other thing, because this is going to be a reoccurring trend now. In all 6 of the Patriots' losses, the Patriots' defense hasn't really lived up to that billing so far. Because in all 6 of those losses, even the ones which were 2 possessions games at the end of the day, the defense, it was actually a 1 possession game in the fourth quarter. So what does that tell us? That tells us the defense late in the game has been kind of unable to sort of stop the offense from scoring late. And this is just a reoccurring trend now. And like, I know the defense was good in the middle of the season, but this is kind of reverting back to like New Orleans early in the year, Tampa, Dallas, those games earlier in the year, which we thought were sort of like kind of early season hiccups, but I don't know, it's reoccurring now at the worst possible time. So I am a little concerned. And unfortunately, you play Jacksonville now, which is a bad team, and they should beat that team. We'll get to that game. But I mean, does that really like make you confident going into the playoffs if they have to face like a better team? Like, do you think the defense is capable on the road, especially because they now lost the home field from the division? So are we confident the defense is capable of playing like that on the road if they haven't really been able to do that at home? I don't know. Any of you guys, like, I don't know. This is kind of a concerning trend at this point.
I think one thing that I'm pretty concerned about is, if you look at the sort of the top contenders in the AFC, the Bills are up there, the Chiefs are up there. Mahomes and Allen both have, pretty similar playing styles. They're pretty good at extending plays out of the pocket, scrambling, have really strong arms, to an extent, probably Joe Burrow too. And the Bengals are doing pretty well. I think, we didn't really see a quarterback like Joe Burrow. Like Josh Allen. Maybe we saw it with like Justin Herbert, but we didn't really see like that like elite quarterback for a while this year. And I think that's a concern going forward into the playoffs because, there's a lot of elite quarterbacks in the playoffs, like for obvious reasons. So yeah, I'm just concerned because like Joe Burrow, be like fourth down or like third down, you'd be flushed out of the pocket. You'd be like, all right, great. Like he's out of the pocket. There's no way he's going to complete this. And he throws across his body and, hits like Isaiah McKenzie or some random person for like, however many they need for a first down. And when you think of like who else does that, it's like Patrick Mahomes, so it's kind of concerning that the two teams that are like, the teams that have that type of quarterback are some of the top teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, I think a caveat I'd make is in terms of playing quarterbacks with that specific type of mobility, right? Because when we're talking about elite quarterbacks, I think we played at least several pretty elite quarterbacks this season, including like Justin Herbert, and a result that went positive for us. And when we look at the highlights of the multiple plays, and if we saw Josh Allen escape from the pocket and for example, 3rd and 10s, 4th downs, that was something that we were actually really good at stopping in our earlier matchup against them back in Buffalo. Where we had our defensive linesmen organized in a way that we actually, kept discipline, secured an edge. That was so important. That's why we had players like Matt Judon play such a critical role because they secured the edge and didn't. And basically, if Josh Allen thought about running out of the pocket, they had the ability to basically check him and force him to stay in the pocket. And we saw that actually multiple times work. So that's why I was a little disappointed that it didn't work here. Though I am sometimes a little hesitant to think about, the ability of a quarterback to consistently do that kind of play over time. Because, yeah, I think we all saw some parallels to the way Patrick Mahomes plays and his ability to just run out and just randomly hit a guy 20, 30 yards upfield. But also, multiple of those plays are actually great turnover machines too for quarterbacks. Like we saw the play the late or maybe late third quarter when Josh Allen ran out and just threw crossfield to Stephon Diggs. Usually throwing across the field out of the pocket is considered a really risky maneuver for any quarterback to do. So I think it's also partly maybe an example of, today I think we just have to first of all we do have to say Josh Allen had a just a superb game today, throwing over 300 against us, multiple big time plays, multiple cases of our individual defensive battles being lost on the passing arena, especially. We saw the tone set, and it didn't matter. I mean, we all know Stephon Diggs had a big game. It wasn't just him, but also players like Miles Bryant who were in man coverage and weren't actually able to defend the ball, right? I mean, we saw that overall in terms of how our secondary did. We had 3 passes defended in the end of the day, right? We had 3 passes defended. Overall, we had 4 QB hits. I wouldn't even have known that if we watched the game. And of course, I don't think I saw. Yeah, there were no sacks today, right? So we just didn't have the ability to consistently put the pressure on Josh Allen in a way that actually resulted in a positive play for us. There were multiple plays where I thought we'd had him, and because of his ability, because of his mobility, and in this case, just his really extraordinary throws that he made, that we didn't see that happen. So that's a little disappointing. But also, I to be honest, I don't really know how much you can expect that kind of performance to be replicated. I know we've seen Josh Allen throw a lot of turnovers in the past few weeks, and looking at this game, I think it's pretty clear to me to understand why. Like sometimes there are games where I think everything goes perfectly for a team, and I'm not using that to make excuses because the Bills are clearly better than us. They've clearly learned from the defeat in how to prevent us from taking over with a run game, how to actually organize our offensive linesmen in a way to win their battles and give Josh Allen the ability to escape the pocket. At the same time, I don't know if I really expect to see this kind of performance in Josh Allen replicate again. This was essentially a perfect performance from him in terms of not really making any mistakes, having all of his throws out of the pocket land with pretty good accuracy. There's only one drop pass from Stephon Diggs in the red zone. Other than that, found him every time. So maybe that's also something to consider, that I don't know if this is a performance you can expect to see from a team like every single time.
I mean, the only reason I say that, the only reason I'm concerned is because I think that, we truly haven't faced that many elite quarterbacks. You look at the schedule, you see Tom Brady. Okay. I mean, Tom Brady is an exceptional case. This Bill Belichick was with this guy for, 20 years, knows exactly how this guy thinks. He's an elite quarterback, but I don't think it's a representative example of how the defense will play every game. Then you had the Cowboys, and Dak Prescott threw for 400 yards against the Patriots. I mean, that's not a great game. And then you had the Chargers and you had Justin Herbert, but okay, maybe they stopped one quarterback, and now you have Josh Allen. And this one time that's not super windy, he also carves up the defense. And then you think about quarterbacks that we've sort of beat up on. It's like Davis Mills, it's like
even
Sam
Davis
Darnold.
Mills actually did okay against this Patriots secondary, by the way.
He did really well. Sam Darnold. I mean, we have Matt Ryan didn't do very well, but also the Falcons aren't the same team they were a few years ago. Against the Browns, we didn't even face Baker Mayfield for the whole game. Case Keenum came in, we faced Carson Wentz. We've sort of carved up Mike White, Jets backup quarterback. We faced some quarterbacks, but in terms of facing an elite Josh Allen level or Dak Prescott level quarterback, I don't think we faced that many. And I think it's concerning that when we have, I think you can put Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, maybe Justin Herbert, and maybe Tom Brady, 2 of those 4 carved us up. And one of those 4, Bill Belichick is known for 20 years. So I don't know if this is a great thing going forward.
Well, I think one caveat I'd add to that is that most team schedules probably don't play that many elite quarterbacks in a given season. If you look at the Bills schedule, for example, They played they played the likes of Tua twice, played the likes of Zach Wilson or whoever's replacement was twice. They played Tom Brady like we did. They played
Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, they paid Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers, but that's like, for example, 3, right? I don't think Big Ben's maybe in the category of a top 5 quarterback this season. So I would say that as a caveat, though I do agree with your point, right? That if we are hoping that this is a team that will do well in the playoffs, and that can be whatever you interpret it to be, even making to the AFC, we do have to expect that when we play a big team like Josh Allen's team or whatever, that we will be able to get a positive result. So at the end of the day, I don't really know what the answer is to that. I do think the one thing about earlier in the season versus now is that there is clearly a lot more trust in the offense's ability, specifically like giving Mac Jones the opportunity to pass on third and fourth downs. Which
I mean, I do want to push back on that a little bit. Is it really trust or is it based on necessity? Because those last 2 games, they're actually playing from behind now. So I don't know if it's actually trust. They're kind of forced to throw, right? Because against Indianapolis, when you're down 20-0 in the 4th quarter, you can't run the ball with Damian Harris or he was out that game, Ramondre Stevenson, right? You have to throw it. So I don't think it's really a trust thing. I think they're actually falling behind in games and they need to throw the ball. So that's the problem now. And so far, I think Mac Jones, he's actually not necessarily entirely to blame because I think he's actually done pretty good in those situations. Both the last 2 matches against Indianapolis and not Dallas, Buffalo. I mean, he actually put it to 1 score and then the defense failed to get that final stop. So I don't think it's actually necessarily more of a trust thing because against Buffalo, they didn't really trust Mac Jones at the end of the day. They only threw it 3 times. And I know you can say the wind was definitely an issue, and it was. But Josh Allen against the wind that day, he actually looked okay, right? He didn't it wasn't like every pass he threw, and it was actually pretty critical.
All
He
right,
actually looked pretty good in the wind, right?
So that's an interesting point. So one thing I'd say is I think there's a difference between trust and game strategy, right? I think that they're if you have a team that I think we need to make a distinction. For me, trust is when you feel that the game strategy does not even, if you do not trust a play, then they will not even factor into your game strategy, right? Whereas with game strategy, you could trust the run game or the pass game, but decide to go on one based on the way you think the game is going. So I would push back on that because we all know earlier in the season, for example, we lost against the Buccaneers on a missed field goal. That's an example of trust. If we were playing the Bills in that same situation on December 26th, we would have expected to see Mac Jones throw the ball on 4th down, or even throw the ball instead of going for a 58-yard field goal. So I would contest the fact that the trust is equivalent here. I would say that there's a difference compared to earlier in the season. What I would agree with, and also going back to Buffalo, right? Again, I don't think that. I mean, you could say that was partly an issue of trust, but again, like we kept seeing, the reason we kept running was because it kept working until the end, maybe the mid 4th quarter. Until then, the Bills had no answer for a run defense. So at that point, that's game strategy, right? If you have the opportunity to chew up clock going into the wind without even putting your quarterback in the position to make errors and have you an environment, why not do that, right? That's not, for me, an example of trust, right? The reason the Bills were doing it was because their run game had absolutely diddly squat. They tried to run early on. They tried to run with Devin Singletary and Matt Breida. They got nowhere. So in that situation, they trusted Josh Allen. But we didn't need to be in that position because our run game was working. So again, I would say that's a difference of game strategy versus trust. And I would argue based on that and based on decisions we saw earlier in the season. We saw Patriots kneel at the end of the first half against the Cowboys when they could have tried to make get 3 points on the board. I think that I would say that there is an increase in trust that we've seen operationalized this season for Mac Jones.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. Hopefully there is more trust because that would imply that Mac Jones has improved, which I think he has. But at the same time, we really I don't know, these last 2 games have kind of taken them out of their comfort zone of sort of controlling the clock and everything and sort of using the run game. Because at this point, the run, Harris and Stevenson, that's really kind of the strength of their offense. Their passing game, the receivers are okay at best, like Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Henry. They're good, but they're not great at this point. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens against Jacksonville. They'll probably be fine. And then Miami's going to be an interesting challenge again next week. So yeah, we'll see. But Ravi, do you have anything to share about that? Or
Yeah, one last point that I'd like to make when we were just talking about the Patriots defense and the success of Josh Allen. I think one big thing that Anirban pointed out that's very good is that the Patriots had no sacks on Josh Allen and very few QB hits. We had a lot of trouble putting pressure on him, and part of that was just because the defensive scheme that we went into this game with, which was mostly run, two high safeties, protect against the deep pass, which Josh Allen's known for, and other, great AFC quarterbacks are known for, like Patrick Mahomes. But we saw that really get picked apart this entire game. I don't know if you guys noticed too, but the play that Josh Allen had the most success with is passing underneath, since we give him just so much space underneath. The receiver catches it for like 5 yards and then manages to push another 5 yards, again, easy first down so much. And they were just able to move the chain so much that just through this process of slowly picking us apart, that I think that's actually what really affected us this game. It wasn't necessarily Josh Allen's arm, but his decision making and just methodically moving the chains down the field. And I still stand by our initial decision to go with two high safeties and mostly protect against the deep pass. That's actually how the Jags managed to disable Josh Allen in their game against him and really, prevent him from scoring a single touchdown. But I think he's clearly adjusted. The Bills have clearly adjusted. And I would have liked to see us blitz more, try something else towards the end of the game instead of continuing to ask him to do something that he's clearly able to do towards the end of the game. So I would have liked to see more changeability in the defense, and that would be another criticism I'd add.
yeah, I mean, if you play Buffalo again, which is a possibility, do you feel confident that the Patriots can win that matchup?
I think we have a lot to learn from this game. Clearly, obviously our issues with just the discipline of the defense is a really big thing. So hopefully that is cleared up by the playoffs. I trust Bill Belichick to clear that up. But I think we really got to take a deep look at our game plan. Josh Allen is known for passing deep. We did protect against that pretty well. We did protect against the run game really well, but we really got to think about what to do when he is just able to make these short passes and the receivers are able to make these short gains and respond to that in a better way. We challenged him to win on these short passes, and he did, and we didn't really have any answer defensively. So I'd be worried, but I think if we do take a long look at that and come up with a convincing answer, we could make some progress, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the hope. But yeah, I mean, that's our take on the Buffalo Bills. I mean, disappointing loss, 9-6, but still in the playoff hunt. And yeah, so the Patriots will now welcome in the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 2-13, one of the worst teams in the league. Trevor Lawrence, the number one pick from this draft. I mean, he has had a very kind of bumpy season, 9 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Obviously, the Jaguars season, unfortunately, a lot of it was mired with Urban Meyer. Terrible coaching decision. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. However, he has been fired, and the Jaguars are hoping to at least rebuild now in the right direction. But in the meantime, they're still a pretty bad team. I mean, they're coming off of a 26-21 loss to the New York Jets. And yeah, I mean, James Robinson, the running back, he's out for the season after an injuries to his Achilles. And Dare Ogunbowale, 17 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown against the Jets. So he's now the lead running back. And they do have some decent receivers. Marvin Jones, he had 8 catches for 74 yards. They also have Laviska Shenault Jr. and Laquan Treadwell and James O'Shaughnessy, the tight end. However, he's out due to hip injury for tomorrow's game. And the Jaguars defense, this is kind of interesting. So let's talk about this. They are actually 10th in the NFL in passing yards allowed, 203.1 yards allowed through the air. And the run defense is also pretty solid statistically, 10th in the NFL as well. So 104.9 yards through the ground. So the Jaguars defense, at least statistically, is a top 10 unit. So how does that explain a 2-13 record with a top 10 defense? Like, does that make any sense to you guys?
I mean, as Bill Belichick, I feel like always says that, you gotta have turnovers. And then I think I was seeing at the turnover margin, they're last, and that's where you create opportunities there's a lot more to defense than just, stopping like yards. So yeah, I think it's the turnover margin, and that's honestly something that the Patriots were doing pretty well for a lot of the season, and then they've kind of not done so well the past couple weeks. Mac Jones has had 4 interceptions over the past 2 weeks. We had that block punt. Like, you can't have turnovers like that. And I think the Jaguars haven't been very good at that. Hopefully the Patriots can capitalize on that. Yeah.
Also, their offense has been pretty horrible too, which puts the defense in some pretty tough positions. They have one of the worst yards per game in the league. Both their running offense and their passing offense is pretty, the bottom half of the league. And then overall in the entire league, they have the least points scored per game. So at around 14 points per game, which is half of what the top teams are. So overall, yeah, it's like their defense might be good, but the holes with turnovers, the holes with offense have really, just meant that does not convert into wins.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about turnovers. Another thing is, for example, like QB pressure. The Jaguars are among the lower end of the league in terms of metrics like sacks. They're also like pretty bottom half in terms of like first plays that result in first down. I mean, yeah, I think when you look beyond yards, there's a lot of other factors that contribute to that. Not to mention, we talked about their sputtering offense. Trevor Lawrence has thrown many interceptions this year. And even things like special teams, right? There was a game where the Jaguars kicker missed like 3 straight field goals in a row. I think it was like in November. We routinely see like special plays like that adds up to like 6 to 9 points. So I think that's really I think you can kind of look at like a ton of different factors there. And each game's like a little different, but I think collectively that means that the Jaguars are a team that maybe can put up some points on the board, maybe like 2 or 3 touchdowns at most, but I haven't really seen much in their ability to really change the game in their favor this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though, because their 2 wins are against Miami and Buffalo. I mean, they beat the Bills 9-6, which is pretty shocking considering that's the same Bills team, which was actually healthier against the Patriots, which scored 33. So I don't know. Football is an interesting sport. Sometimes we see these types of matches and results, but yeah, it's a very weird team. Like, I don't know. Like, obviously they're a pretty bad team right now, but like, I don't know. At the same time, the Patriots cannot really take any team lightly because they're no longer good enough to just be able to do that. So yeah, I mean, I think the key for this game as a result is just going to be, it's going to be back to the run heavy game. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson likely leading the way, and then the pass game will just sort of go with the flow from there. So like, I mean, that's probably going to be that's sort of what the Patriots like to do this season. They kind of, that's their comfort zone. If they have the lead, they'll just give it to Harris, run the ball, and then Stevenson as well. So that's probably the type of match and like results I'm sort of looking for tomorrow. Do you guys think it'll be like a pass heavy game? Maybe get Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry more involved again for the playoffs, sort of prepare yourself for that? Or do you think it'll just be back to Harris and Stevenson leading the show as it's been this season?
I'd hope a little bit of both. Like, this is a good opportunity to sort of let Mac Jones get back into his rhythm. I don't think the game plan should be based on what will help Mac Jones get back into his rhythm. But against a team like the Jags, it seems like, you can sort of run the ball, pass the ball. We'll see. I mean, it is in New England. I'm not sure what the weather's like going to be like tomorrow. I think it's going to rain. I'm not sure. But if it rains, then maybe we'll see another one of those run heavy games. Maybe not. I mean, not the Bills game, the first Bills game, but maybe again Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson leading the charge.
Yeah, I think this will be a game where we'll just do what we need to do to win, and most likely I'll be get a few scores ahead, maybe have Mac for some game management. But again, I'm not really going to start panicking yet about what would happen in various permutations about the playoffs. I mean, we still have 2 games, right? And also remember, at the end of the day, we're talking about the Bills. Like, every time you play a team, the game's going to go slightly differently, right? And that's because both teams respond to the previous encounter. So yeah, I'd say we use this Jaguars game as a time to kind of regroup and kind of like what I was talking about with the Jets a long time ago. It feels like, use this game to really get your offense in rhythm, get some confidence ahead of a tougher matchup, which is going to be against Miami Dolphins in Florida.
One note as well, like tomorrow, the Jaguars are actually like, so their offensive line, every member of their starting offensive line, except for their right tackle, Jawan Taylor, has been ruled out for tomorrow's game. So basically that means that everyone but the right tackle, there's going to be a backup at that spot. The Jaguars' offensive line is atrocious to begin with. So basically, you're taking away the best players on one of the worst offensive lines in the league. You're putting in their backups. So this should be the type of match tomorrow where I expect Trevor Lawrence to be sacked and pressured and hit every play almost. Like this, like, I mean, if the defense doesn't have at least like 4 or 5 like sacks tomorrow, I will be concerned, because if this is a close matchup tomorrow and the Patriots barely squeak by with a win, I will be concerned then. Like this needs to be a kind of a convincing win, because I don't know, like, I mean, this is like one of the worst teams in the league at this point. So I'm expecting some good performances tomorrow. If not, I'm going to be kind of concerned. I'm not going to lie anymore. Like if you can't beat the Jaguars convincingly by 2 or 3 scores or 2 or 3 possessions, then it's time to be, then I'd be worried about Miami.
I will say that I think Matt Judon will be out with COVID. I'm not sure. He was out earlier this week. I'm not sure if he's going to be back by Sunday, but that might dent the pass rush a little bit. But I still agree. Like we still have Christian Barmore. There's a Dante Hightower. There's sufficiently many solid rushers. Kyle Van Noy, that we should probably hit Lawrence a couple times at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing is not to get too like carried away, or I just really want to make sure that we're focused throughout this game. I mean, I think we're all forgetting at this point that the Bills' offensive line was almost entirely revamped due to injuries or COVID last week. At the end of the day, like if you have really good offensive line structure and management from your quarterback when they're setting the pieces and stuff, that can kind of mask some of the issues. But of course, with a rookie quarterback and a kind of chaotic situation, a coach, we should expect to see a different situation. But again, I think another thing we learned from last game, right? Don't take anything for granted. This is a team without Cole Beasley, without a lot of their offensive line. And yeah, obviously there's a talent differential, but it's really this game's really this is a game, we need to win this game. That's really all I can say about it.
Yeah, I mean, if Trevor Lawrence is extending plays and throwing darts to Marvin Jones and Chenault, and then I'm going to be very concerned because it's one thing for Josh Allen to be doing that, but if Trevor Lawrence all of a sudden is extending plays with his legs, just throwing like dimes across the field, and all of a sudden he looks like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, then I think it's time for us to officially be concerned about this defense. So yeah, I mean, if Jacksonville all of a sudden throws like, I don't know, they drop 30 on the Patriots, it comes down to like a 33-30 game at the end, I'm not going to be happy about that. And none of us should be happy if it comes down to like some last second field goal or something like that. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's one thing for Josh Allen to do that, but if Trevor Lawrence is doing this at this point, then that's going to be a worrying sign for me. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, let's go to the score prediction. So I'm going to assume I'm going with the best case situation. I'm going to say Patriots 31, Jaguars 6. I mean, this should not be a contest at all. If it is, then next week's podcast is going to be me, at least me at the very least, or if I don't think I'm allowed to be on, but it should be whoever is on the show should absolutely be ripping apart this team if this game is even remotely close. So 31-6 Patriots, because if it isn't, that's not good. What are the other predictions?
I'm going to go with 27-13. I think it'll be a little bit closer, but overall convincing win by multiple scores and Patriots in control the entire game. I'll also say,
all right, I'm okay with that. 27-13 is okay.
I'll take the controversial pick. I'll do 24-17. I'm still not convinced that the Patriots, like after the past 2 games, I'm still not convinced that the Patriots can win this game convincingly. I hope to be proven wrong, but I'm not there yet.
I mean, I'll go with a scoreline like maybe 24-13. I think this is, I don't think this is going to be a blowout for the simple reason that we're probably going to go up 1 or 2 scores and just run the ball, run down the clock like the whole game. So, maybe if we're going hardcore Madden throughout, rest in peace. We might get like a huge score line of like 41, but I don't think it's going to happen. And honestly, the Jaguars from their game recaps I've seen tend to get a score or two late in the game, just so their scoreline is looking a little more competitive. So
Yeah, I'm okay with
surprised
garbage
if
time
that
scoring.
score.
So if it's like 31-3 and they score like a late touchdown, then I'm okay with that. Or if it's like 31-3 and they score 2 late touchdowns, it's 31-17. Then I'm okay with that. Even if it's 24-17, if it's like 24-3 and they get like 2 late scores, then okay, that's okay to me. But if it's like tied in the fourth quarter or the Patriots are up by like a field goal and Lawrence has the ball and he's driving down the field and they need like some interception or something, then I'm not going to be happy about this, because if you can't stop Trevor Lawrence properly, I don't know how you're going to be able to stop Josh Allen or whoever you play in the playoffs. But yeah, that's going to be the take. I mean, so yeah, that's going to be our preview for the Jaguars. So yeah, hopefully the Patriots win tomorrow. But anyways, for everyone, all our listeners, Happy New Year, enjoy the day, and here's to a good and very interesting 2022 in the sports scene. So yeah.
Thanks for having us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
See you guys.